Today is Monday, May 11th, 2026, and this is South Texas Midday. I'm Spencer Chiok.
We are looking, though, at adding surcharges to large volume users.
That was Corpus Christi City Manager Peter Zanoni on Friday during the Corpus Christi Weekly Water Briefing. During the press conference, he laid out a number of possible changes that may be on their way, including expanding the baseline amount of water use for residents both currently and in a Level 1 water emergency by around 13%, adding surcharges for people that go over the new baseline instead of fining them. Zanoni added the goal of the surcharges is to replace fines that, quote, could be issued. Currently, industrial users who voluntarily pay a drought surcharge exemption fee do not need to pay a surcharge in a Level 1 water emergency. Zanoni said that may change.
We're going to work with industry to see if we can get consensus on charging surcharges, even if you have the drought exemption fee that you pay. That surcharges would go into effect for large volume users regardless if they bought that insurance or not.
Changes also include allowing car washes to operate in a Level 1 water emergency and allowing people to use a 5-gallon bucket to wash theirs at home. It was also announced Corpus Christi's city pools and splash pads will see no changes this summer from last summer. Next week is National Boat Safety Week. Vice Division Commander Tom Gadamoller from the United States Coast Guard Auxiliary is on the phone. Tom, thank you for joining us today. What do boaters need to know before venturing out?
There are 5 things that I like to suggest to people on boating safety. One is take a safe boating class. Yeah, I know, and I fall into this part. I'm an old soul, and I know everything there is about boating. Not. So what I would suggest, even if you've been boating for years, take a safe boating class. There have been minor changes in the law, as for example, with engine cutoff switches and fire extinguishers having an expiration date. It helps to have that safe boating class. Just kind of reminds you of rules of the roads and things like that. Second thing, always wear a life jacket. Life jackets do save lives. There are a lot of different life jackets out there that, are a whole lot better than the old-time horse collars and are a lot more comfortable to wear. And you'll be a lot safer with it. If your boat has an engine cutoff switch, wear it. Make sure that it's securely attached to you as the operator. So if perchance, unfortunately, you're thrown from the boat, the engine cuts off and doesn't perform what's known as the circle of death. And this is a situation in which the engine continues to run and the boat just simply will start making a clockwise turn around the person, and it is not a pretty sight. Don't drink and operate a boat. If you're going to have any alcohol on the boat, make sure, just like with driving, you have a designated driver. In boating, you make sure you have a designated operator of the boat. Boating while intoxicated carries the same legal penalties as driving while under the influence. So please don't drink and boat. And then finally, and not least, is keep a constant lookout. If you're distracted for any reason, put the boat down to an idle, put her in neutral, and take care of what you have to take care of, and then go back and hit the throttle up. Because the last thing you want to do is be inattentive, because you don't know what's floating in the water. The landscape is constantly changing with other boats and whatnot. So just keep a good lookout. Those would be my 5 takeaways that anybody ever has.
For someone new to boating, what is a misconception they might have about it?
Well, the first one, I guess, would be that anybody can do it. And, that's, anybody can drive a boat. But there are a lot of differences between driving a boat and driving a car. First of all, a boat steers, if you will, from the stern, not the bow, like a car. You have front wheel steering on a car, and when you turn your wheel, the car follows those wheels with a boat. The boat steers from the stern, so the stern will move over in the direction that you're steering it, and then finally the bow follows along and goes into the direction that you want to go. So that's probably the biggest difference between driving a boat and driving a car, operating a boat and driving a car. So, just realize that it's different. Also, if in the state of Texas, if you were born after September 1st, 1993, you need to take a safe boating class. That's certified by the National Association of Safe Boating Law Administrators, NASBLA. You can find one on the website cgaux.org, as well as in Texas Parks and Wildlife. They're both NASBLA certified classes, and it will satisfy that obligation that if you ever get boarded, you need to show not only your ID, but you'll have to show your NASBLA class card that you successfully passed a safe boating class.
For people with kids who are going to take them out onto the water, what are maybe some talking points to have with children?
One of the things that I thought through my life that I've seen is with kids, first of all, under 13, they have to wear a life jacket. And it needs to be a proper fitting life jacket. Because what happens is with kids, first of all, they're small. And if they end up in the water and the jacket, let's say, is much too large for them, the jacket, they'll sink and the jacket will stay on top of the water. They'll just float right out of the thing. The other thing I find wonderful is parents tell the kids it's their boat coat. This is the coat you wear when you're boating, and it gets kids in the habit of wearing a life jacket. I started boating when I was about 7 or 8, and always wore a life jacket because in the scouting that was required, that we had to wear a life jacket whenever we were in some sort of vessel, be it a canoe or an old kayak or something along those lines. That's the biggest thing. The other thing is where you put the kids on the boat. You want them to be inside the boat. You don't want them hanging out over the gunnel, which is fancy for the sides of the boat. You don't want them sitting on the stern, and you don't want them up on the bow, hanging their legs over the side of the boat. It's not safe. If they fall in, of course, the motor's still going, and that prop is very unforgiving. So those are the biggest thing with kids. Make sure they're in the boat. Make sure they're wearing their life jacket.
Great, Tom. In a situation where something goes wrong, what are steps people should take to keep everyone safe?
Well, first thing is if you run into any issues, make sure that everyone puts on their life jacket. Second, if your boat isn't equipped with a VHF radio, I would strongly suggest you get one. The reason being is most people will say, well, I can call on my cell phone, I can call 911. Yes, you can, but there are places on the water, especially here locally, where cell service can get kind of dicey, especially, in Laguna Madre. You get further enough south towards Baffin Bay, and you might lose, or even south of Baffin Bay, you may lose cell service. However, VHF radio, you have Channel 16, which is the International Hailing and Distress Channel, and that is constantly monitored by the Coast Guard. It would also be monitored by any Texas Parks and Wildlife game warden who happened to be on the water as well. And it's if you will, a party line. So any boater who is on the water can hear it. And if they're able to provide assistance, they can. So even before the incident occurs, if you don't have a VHF radio, get one. And the beauty of the modern VHF radios is they have what's known as a maritime mobile surface identity number. And what that is it's kind of akin, if you will, to a transponder, except it doesn't track you. But when you key that mic, it sends out, after you program it, it sends out your number that you've registered it with, and the Coast Guard has that. And then the newer radios also are GPS in it. So if you call for help on a MMSI-enabled radio, the Coast Guard now knows not only where you are, but who you are, and once they get the nature of your emergency, they can provide the help if it's an emergency. Running out of gas would not be a true emergency. So, but you can get hold of towing services such as CTOW or Boat US, and they can help you out on that.
Okay, and if you see someone else in a possible emergency, or if you see something that looks distressing, maybe they're not acting in a safe way, what should you do?
Well, with somebody else in an emergency, the law states that if it is safe for you, your passengers, and your vessel, you are to render aid. I would say first, if you have a radio, call first for help. If you see somebody, let's say, for example, a fire on a vessel, call it in. Second, if you can get as close as you can safely. And if they need to abandon their boat because of the fire, you'll be able to collect them. If the boat's sinking and you can get close and pick up people who are on the boat. Making sure that they're wearing their life jackets, because as soon as you call, let's say, for example, the Coast Guard on a radio, one of the first questions they're going to ask is how many souls you have on board, and two, is everybody wearing a life jacket? That's how important that is. So those are the things. If you're seeing somebody operating in an unsafe way, yes, you can call it in. I would probably call first the Texas Parks and Wildlife number and call it in there, and they can contact a game warden, because they have a little more coverage area than the Coast Guard. The Coast Guard goes federal waters, and the Texas Parks and Water is more state waters, which is where most people boat. Laguna Madre and Corpus Christi Bay, the other bays and inlets surround the coastal bend here.
Great, Tom. What's your favorite part about being on the water?
Oh, I don't know. It's something that I've always enjoyed. Of course, I'm a sailor, and I enjoy life at six to 7 knots. But I've also operated a power boat. But just the freedom of being out on the water, the challenge of being out on the water. The water is a great place to be on. Very relaxing, very calming. However, as with that, you can get lulled into a sense of safety, that everything's okay, and as quick as you can bat an eyelash, the water can get dangerous. You can hit something, you can run aground, fires do happen, and so be aware of that and be ready for all those emergencies.
Well, Tom, I want to thank you so much for your time today and your service. We'll make sure it's a very safe boating week this week and every week as well.
Oh, every weekend should be definitely a safe boating weekend. The other thing on that website we have, of course, the cgaux.org, is if you have any question about whether you have the right safety equipment aboard your boat, we offer vessel safety checks, and you can sign up for those on that website, as well as find a safe boating class. And the vessel safety checks are free. generally find somebody close to you will come actually to your house and inspect your boat for you. The beauty of having the Coast Guard Auxiliary do it is if you don't pass, we don't give you a ticket. We just won't give you a sticker. We will give you a carbon copy of the inspection report, and it will say where you are deficient, and you can go to your local marine supply center and get the things that you need.
Sounds like a great deal, Tom. Thank you so much for your time today.
Oh, you're welcome. And the Semper Paratus, Coast Guard, always ready.
This has been South Texas Midday. I'm Spencer Chiok. Your community arts calendar and more is on its way next.